President Joe Biden made a surprise visit to to Ukraine yesterday, and the only people that had anything bad to say about it were the pathetic Republicans. Now, President Joe Biden had made a surprise visit to Kyiv on Monday, nearly 1 year after Russia had invaded Ukraine. Now, Biden walked down the streets of the Ukrainian capital with President Vladimir Zelensky and told, as air sirens blared in the background. The show of support came months after Zelensky had traveled to D.C. to meet with President Biden in the Oval Office and to address a joint session of Congress. Now 1 year later, Kyiv still stands, and Ukraine still stands, and democracy still stands, President Biden said, announcing a $500 million package of additional assistance to Ukraine, including military equipment and ammunition. President Biden also announced new sanctions against Russia over its brutal invasion. When Vladimir Putin launched his invasion nearly 1 year ago, he thought Ukraine was weak and the West was divided, and he thought that he could outlast us all. But he was dead fucking wrong, Biden said, adding that later this week the government will announce additional sanctions against the elites and companies that are trying to invade or backfill Russia's war machine. Now, Biden is the latest world leader to visit Ukraine amid its fight against Russia, and joining the likes of French President Emmanuel Macron, German Chancellor Olaf Scholz, Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau, and British Prime Ministers Boris Johnson and Rishi Sunak. Not sure if I'm saying that name right. Now, First Lady Jill Biden also made a surprise visit to a small town in western Ukraine last Mother's Day. Basically, she says, "I thought it was critical that there be no doubt and none whatsoever about U.S. support for Ukraine in the war." Joe Biden had told reporters during a joint appearance with Zelensky, which this is what Joe Biden had said during reporters, basically. Now, the Ukrainian people have stepped up in a way that few people have ever had in the past. Now, President Biden, during his comments, emphasized that Ukraine maintains bipartisan support, even as a growing number of Republicans push back on additional aid. And for all the disagreement that we have in our Congress on some issues, there is significant agreement on support for Ukraine, and it's not just about freedom in Ukraine, it's about freedom of democracy at large. Now, some House Republicans quickly seized on the visit, criticizing Biden over this trip. They're claiming it was insulting, which it really wasn't. And now, this is incredibly insulting, tweeted Representative Marjorie Taylor Greene. It's not insulting. She's like, and she basically turned it on him. Today on President's Day, Joe Biden, the President of the United States, chose Ukraine over America. No, he didn't. While forcing the American people to pay for the Ukraine's government in war, and she basically said, "Oh, I cannot express how much Americans hate Biden." Yeah, and I can't express how many Americans hate Trump. Representative Scott Perry wrote that it was breathtaking that President Biden can show up in Ukraine to ensure their border is secure, but he can't do the same for America. Because the border in America is secure. That's why. Donald Trump even tweeted himself, of course. Donald Trump Jr. Tweeted, of course, Joe Biden is in Ukraine and not Ohio because screw Americans. Yeah, that's the same opinion your father had. Fuck everybody but him. Biden made the decision to travel to Kyiv on Friday after huddling with the national security advisors at the Oval Office. Now, officials had said that the U.S. informed Russia of the plan a few hours before Biden departed for deconfliction purposes, National Security Advisor Jake Sullivan had told reporters, and this was a risk that Joe Biden was willing to take. Communications Director Kate Bedingfield said, "It's important to him to show up even when it's hard, and he directed his team to make it happen no matter how challenging the logistics are." But Biden said during his remarks nearly a year after the invasion, Putin's war of conquest is failing, and Vladimir Putin thought that Ukraine was weak and the West was divided. But I don't think he's thinking that now. He said he's just plain wrong. 1 year later, the evidence is right there in this room. We all stand together. Now, Biden, during his speech, recalled how Russian planes were in the air and tanks were going across their border when he spoke to Zelensky by phone ahead of the invasion. And basically he said that you could hear explosions in the background. I'll never forget that, Biden said, recalling Zelensky's plea to rally world leaders behind Ukraine. And 1 year later, Kyiv is still standing, and Ukraine is still standing, and democracy is still standing. The Americans stand with Ukraine, and the world stands with Ukraine. Zelensky said that Biden's visit brings us closer to a victory. And Zelensky said that two leaders have discussed the U.S. sending additional military hardware to Ukraine, and they described the recent decision to send Abrams tanks to Ukraine as a pivotal. Um, Now, the decision of the U.S. on Abrams tanks has already presented a foundation for establishing a tank coalition and is of historic importance. They've talked about long-range weapons and the weapons that may still be supplied to Ukraine, and even though they have not been supplied there before. Zelensky added that the result of this visit will surely be seen, and surely it would have repercussions on the battlefield and liberating the territories. Now, if you like the video, you can get the video, like and subscribe to my channel, REW King. You can also hit the notification bell so that you'll be notified when a new video comes out. And if you want to support my work even further, you can donate to my Patreon link, which you can find in the About section of YouTube. And for just a little as a few bucks a video, your donation can help go a long way. And thanks for listening.